Well, we're back talking finance again today, and in recent times we were talking through issues of insurance. The importance of having life insurance, particularly if you have a family and a spouse who might be left on their own to raise children. And there are a lot of issues to do with insurance, and we're going to continue a conversation today with Gavin Martin, who's from Cornerstone Wealth. Gavin, welcome back to 2020.
Yeah, g'day Neil, great to be with you again.
Gavin, it was just recently we were talking about insurance and the issues that surround that, the importance of having life insurance. Gavin, recent times we've been talking about insurance, the importance of prioritising life insurance, particularly if you've got a young family. But the question raises itself. Some people do consider it very important as to how that fits with a Christian faith. Trusting God that He's going to look after circumstances in our lives if things go wrong. And the idea that perhaps having life insurance might not be as faith-filled as some people think.
Yes, I often get the question about that when I raise life insurance with people, that it could be a good position to have a certain level of cover to either pay for the family mortgage, so the mortgage on the home, so that in the event of death the other members of the family don't need to move out of that home, or it might be to cover other expenses. But I often get the question, I don't think we need life insurance. I just going to rely on God and my faith to provide for me. And whilst that is true, ultimately God is our provider and He provides for us. I guess the question is, if we have an ability to help provide for our family by paying out a small premium, then is that a valid thing to do, I guess from a theological and a logical perspective?
Gavin, the word that comes to mind when I think of this balance when it comes to life insurance is the idea of stewardship. And there is a sense in which that financial wisdom that we acquire and that we apply to our lives is useful not only in our lifetime, but if you've got the opportunity, you can help things go smoothly after you're gone. And I guess that is a reason to exercise wisdom with life insurance.
Yes, and it's in line with that verse, I can't remember the actual scripture, that it is our responsibility to provide for our families. Ultimately, God's our provider, but we have responsibility to do what we can to work and to provide for them. And one of the ways that we can do that is through holding some insurance. I guess we've got a limited amount of resources that we can spend each year, and so we need to make that decision about what's the priority in terms of those resources. And then it gets down to, well, should a small amount of our total income for the year go towards providing for our loved ones in the event of some form of catastrophe, whether that be disability or death. So yeah, it's a challenge that some people just go totally down the faith track and say, well, I don't think I need to do anything. It's more so I just rely on God providing for me or my family. But I guess I encourage people to think through that and make sure that they have done all that they possibly can to provide for their family in all circumstances.
I wonder if there's not a balance between a faith position and a stewardship position when it comes to your Christian thinking on insurance. And that could be to deliberate how greed might work in your decision as to how much life insurance you might actually apply for. And there could be a way that I guess you could assess what your needs might be and cater for those needs that might not be as extravagant as you might be concerned about.
Yeah, that's really important, because some people might think that having a certain level of cover is greedy. You're getting might be getting a large lump sum of money that's going to, change the dynamics of the family. But if you think about it from a needs base as opposed to thinking of it as some massive windfall, if you're just thinking about needs, I think that makes a lot more sense, because if you need a certain level of income now to live on, and the primary breadwinner isn't going to be there anymore to provide that, then it's more of a need to have that provided for. And so, yeah, it's good stewardship to actually do that. I guess the other side of the coin is that some people have the ability for other family members and potentially the church community to chip in and help and support in the case that there's a loss in the family or there's a disability in the family. But that happened recently in Victoria, and actually it was a young pastor with a young family. And after that happened, it was openly discussed within the church community about the importance of having some insurance cover in place. And it's important also to think through that we don't think twice about insuring a car that might be worth several $1,000s, up tens of $1,000s potentially, depending on the value of your car. We don't think twice about doing that. But when you think about what our lives can generate in terms of income, it's a lot more that we're foregoing, or a lot more that we would miss out on, or our family would miss out on, if we were unable to work. So comparing those two things is often a good reminder as well.
Sometimes I think we look for biblical precedents with these sorts of things, and I'm just thinking of the early chapters of Acts, where the community of believers were pitching in assets, and I think even the scripture even says people were buying and selling land and property, and then contributing those things into the community to meet the needs of people. It was like a first century insurance policy that the church was implementing, but when you've got specific organised insurance policies, it does take the heat off and makes it more formal.
Yes, and you could also relate it to the floods and the fires and the other catastrophes that are around Australia. It's great to chip in and help out and donate and support, and that's what we should do as a community. But then the other, as you say, the other side of the coin is that, well, should we also, on top of that generosity, try and make sure that we're covered as well, so that we aren't fully reliant on the community generosity? Well,
it certainly is one of those issues, and there will be doubt in the listener's mind in many circumstances that says, I wonder whether having excessive insurance actually is a challenge to my Christian faith. But I think that there is a certain balance there, that stewardship comes in and would say there are things you can do to prepare in advance, so you should take advantage of that opportunity. Gavin Martin is the founder of Cornerstone Wealth. Gavin, it's always a pleasure talking. Thanks for being with us again today on 2020.
Thank you, Neil. Great to be with you.